Hi, welcome to my assignment guide for your research paper proposal. We'll walk through all of the major portions of the assignment and I will give some ideas of what I'm looking for as I grade it, along with a sample that I've worked through to help give you some ideas to the structure. All right, first up we have topic. The first thing you'll want to do is check your list of topics for week 1. I strongly recommend looking at my feedback. Sometimes I give you an idea for one I think will work really well. Sometimes I have feedback that maybe your topic might be too broad. You're also not stuck with those topics if you feel like, oh, okay, I know more now that we've gone through a few weeks and you want to pick a new one. Great idea. It's completely fine. So here's what I'm looking for as I grade your topics. First, you'll want to make sure your topic is sociological, not necessarily too psychological or too historical. The textbook is a pretty good guide for whether or not it's sociological. This one's pretty self-explanatory. Is it related to juvenile delinquency? Make sure it fits in the topics we cover in the class. And then this is a point where I'll look and see if your topic is too broad. So if you just say, oh, my topic is gangs, you need to narrow that down. Is it gender norms in gangs? Is it the influence of having divorced parents on gang membership? Something like that narrows your topic down. So here's my sample topic. I would be interested in juvenile delinquency in second-generation Mexican immigrants. So it's sociological. I'm looking at the influence of ethnicity and immigration. It's related to juvenile delinquency, and I've narrowed it down to a specific group, and that'll make it easier for me to keep my argument focused. Next up, we have your thesis. So for this paper, this is considered a 1 to 2 sentence statement that's just presenting your argument for the paper, giving you that strong foundation, telling your reader, what's your point? Why do I listen? What am I interested? What will I learn by the end of this? Here's what I'm looking for. The first two things are writing based. So first, is it easy to understand? Does it follow rules of grammar and spelling? And I can know what you're saying when I read it. And then also well organized. Is this going to promote a paper that I know what's going to happen next? But the things I'm really concerned about more so than the writing is the content and the sociological nature of it. First important thing is that it's a debatable position. It's not just a statement of fact. So with my samples, my not debatable one is second generation immigrants have higher rates of delinquency than first generation immigrants. That's a statistic, it's not a position. But if I make a debatable one that explains why that's my position, then it's an actual thing that you can argue as you continue to write the paper. Usually explaining why you have that position is some sort of because statement. Like the first part of your thesis is your position, and then you explain why. Extra great if the reason that you explain why is connected to sociology somehow. And which is the other big thing I'm looking for. I'm looking for a sociological thesis statement. You're using sociological terms and theories. You're using the sociological imagination to understand how juvenile delinquency fits in with the rest of the social world. So I talked about my not debatable thesis. Here's my debatable thesis explaining my position. So first off is the position part where I say cultural stress leads to higher rates of delinquency for second generation immigrant youth. And then I'm explaining why with my because part where I say because they struggle to balance conflicting cultural norms. I would probably also add, between their peers and their parents, something like that. Well, now that you have your thesis, you want to think about 3 points, possibly 4 points, that support that thesis. For this assignment, you need to tell me what the points are, and then give at least a 1 to 2 sentence description of each point. Sometimes students write a paragraph. That's fine. It gives you more to work with as you write your paper later, but it's not necessary. I do only need 1 to 2 sentences. Here's what I'm looking for as I grade your topics. First up is, are your points sociological? A big one I see from a lot of students in their proposal is that they say, well, I'm going to give a history of gangs as my first point in my paper. I'm going to give a history of alcohol abuse. A lot of times that's information that you can put in your introduction. It's also information that if you put in too much of it, it kind of bogs down the paper. So I really recommend not doing that as a supporting point. I'm looking for if your points connect with your thesis statement. You know, do they all fit back with that, or is there something that I'm confused as to why it's in there? Also, do they logically connect to each other? If it seems like you're making one argument with the first 2 points and a completely different argument with the third point, that's a little confusing. And then I'm just simply looking if you explain your points. Sometimes what I'll see, like you see my big list right here, I'll just see someone write down parenting practices, lack of identity, discrimination. And those are good points, but I need to know that you've thought at least a little more about those. So as you'll see with my sample points, I wrote down not just that, but a little more information that I've found from scholarly articles, a little more sociological theory that I'm going to connect to it. It gives an idea for what I'm going to do with the rest of the paper. So the last part of the assignment is sources. For this, you need 3 sources. An important point is that only one can be a website. We're really hoping, though, for reputable websites. You want to be discerning when you Google this. Sometimes the top hits are personal blogs or highly political, and I'm not saying that they're fake or that they're totally wrong, but for a research paper, you want to make sure you're doing things that have been peer-reviewed, that have been carefully vetted, and that are not too couched in opinion. So the other 2 sources you're including for this assignment then are going to come from books, journal articles, and news articles. And even if you access those online, you can still count those as books, journals, and news. I know many of you are doing your research online. So what I am looking for is, are the sources reliable? So like I mentioned with the websites, but also books, journal articles, news articles, and then are they cited in ASA format? That is a really big one. If you use the research guide available in our class, first, it will lead you to tons of great sources, but second, there's also a page on there with ASA style guides. This is what ASA style looks like for one of the articles that I read. I can usually tell if it's ASA because first, you're using full first names and middle initials. APA format only uses first initials, and also that your year won't be in parentheses. There's a few more things to it than that. I recommend using the style guide. So thanks, and good luck, and ask me if you have any questions.